podcast is filmed before a live studio audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast with Jason and Mike. I'm Jason.
I'm Mike.
We're coming to you from the Pud Cave, located here in Game Swap in beautiful downtown Lincoln in the great state of North Carolina. Mikey, brother, what is going on?
We are TV stars.
Shut up, man. You know, right off the bat, dude.
We are.
Well, we're on Fight TV.
Thank you.
Well,
stop telling me to shut up.
No, but I know.
Stop being Richard.
No, I know what you're doing.
Stop
Richard.
being a dick.
You're Richard for real, man. It's in your name, motherfucker, and I can say fucker on this show.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat. No, you're egging me on.
Stop
Mike.
yelling at me. Why are you yelling at me?
You know why, man. You're egging me on because of the whole TV title thing and the. No, man. I'm not doing it. You know why I'm not doing it today, Mike? Even though you're trying, man, you're trying to get me mad, and you're getting there. And the reason that I'm not having, not today, Satan. That's all I'm saying.
What?
I took it to another level there.
You're out of control.
Yes, I am, man. Too much coffee today, man. Too much coffee. But no, Mike. Today, brother, we're having a very special show, an impromptu show, actually. And
on TV.
You know what he's doing, Wayne, and you just heard me say, Wayne, if you read the description.
If you can't hear him laughing in the background.
There's a mouse in here.
Yeah, and his name is Wayne Says. And that mouse knows a lot about music, brother. And but no, Wayne says thank you for coming in today,
Thank
brother.
you for having me, guys.
And I know it was a short notice thing as well.
Yeah.
You know, Mike, we had actually, you brought up at the beginning of the show how we're TV stars, and which we kind of are because we were on Fight TV.
Yeah, I was just kidding about that. I guess technically, yeah.
But
sure.
technically, we were on TV. We were on Fight TV, a pay-per-view, Mike. We actually last
I watched
week.
on my computer.
Y'all should see the tension in the room.
Man, I'm telling you, that's why we don't have video. The video would be all staticky and melting and everything, you know.
Melt your TV.
Melt your TV. Or your computer screen or your phone. Stop it. But Mikey, dog, bro. But we did, man. We made our debut last week on Fight TV, our pay-per-view. Not our commentating debut.
Right.
But it was our first time doing a pay-per-view. And anybody listen to last week's show, we were a little nervous, Mike.
I was pissed myself nervous.
Brother, man, yeah.
Let me tell you what, and that's no shit, and that was a shoot. I drank so much water that whole time I had to piss so bad.
And we didn't get a break.
No, there was no break.
There was no intermission. Well, there was an intermission for everybody else.
Yeah, except for us. We're running interviews.
We had interviews to do, man. Which
so
was
I'm
fun.
standing on the stage, really trying to, not sell the fact that I've got to piss so bad. I can't stand it. After that show, I've never pissed for so long. It was like a 5-minute piss. I mean,
like Austin Powers. Remember an Austin Powers movie?
It was just like that. It was just like, it was hurtful and I was so happy. And so much pain and pleasure at the same time. Yeah.
I know when it was over, you came up and said, dude, I've never pissed for so long in my life.
Dude.
But I pissed like 3 times before the show because I
That's
knew.
true.
I did.
You did.
I did. I'm going one more time, man. I can get that last couple drops out.
Right.
I knew it was going to be a long night. And dude, I said this on the weekly wrestling wrap up that you can catch every Sunday night at 9:00 on L-Town Radio.
That's right.
But I talked about this, man. But before the show, like I said, we shoot on this show, and Chad, the owner operator, the main man at USA Main Event Wrestling. He did a really cool thing, man. He put me over to the boys. Because, man, we spent a lot of time. We did, brother, getting everything ready. Just getting the production ready. And it was a lot of work. But, man, there was a lot of pressure too, Wayne. And he did before the show. He was like, and everybody, I want to give a round of applause to Jason Finger over here, for being down here and helping getting this thing going. Everybody, clapped and looked at me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, holy shit. If this thing fucks up,
it's on you.
I have about 15 pissed off wrestlers no less, coming up to me. Where's that son of a bitch that did this? You know? And I mean, I appreciated it, dude. And it meant a lot, man. I mean, it really did.
Yeah.
It meant the world. And you came and kind of batted my man on the back, dude. It felt good, but at the same time, you want to talk about that pressure and nervousness.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, I gulped.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I'm glad for you guys that you had a successful evening.
Yeah.
That right there.
definitely.
Yeah, I could tell on the last show, on the last podcast, y'all were nervous but excited about it.
Yes.
And you know, it's great to do stuff like that. If you get a chance, that's awesome, man.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you,
I'm glad we didn't have the hiccups on that pay-per-view that we had on
Thunder.
the Thursday Night Thunder.
Yeah, man.
Because if there was anything that was going to happen, it happened that night.
On
And
Thunder.
The glitch gremlins were out in force that night.
No, man, the gods were
And we
smiling
would
upon
have
us.
shit the bed on Fight TV.
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was...
Well, one of the funny, well, I guess, quote unquote funny, for me funny anyway, moments was we had streamed it basically all day long because we had a private, I guess what you call like a private server to watch the stream. So in other words, man, from, I don't know, 1 o'clock on, we streamed live on Fight TV, but
Right.
only we could see it. You know, it
Right.
wasn't actually being broadcast over Fight. And all day long, everything was fine. Everything was
Right.
working good. Dude, the fans are coming in. This was a little after 6:30. You know, people are coming up to us talking all of a sudden. And I had Fight TV up on the PC where they could communicate with us. Ding. By like 5 or 10 minutes till I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. And I have people, hey, this is Jason. I have people introduce me. And I'm like, hey, guy, hey. And you know me, man. I try to talk to everybody. And I try to
Right.
make time to really, you know, because I'm grateful
Yeah.
to be there. But at the same time, it's like, ding. Fight TV sent a message. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Hey, this is, you know, you got to do this. And I'm like, fuck, man, it's 5 minutes before the fucking show. We've been literally streaming for 7 hours. Or you know,
Right,
not-
yeah,
but
yeah,
really,
yeah.
at least 5.
Yeah.
At least 5
Yeah.
hours, 6
Because we
hours.
got there probably about 3 o'clock, I know.
Well, dude, we started
With us
streaming.
before that.
Yeah, I
you
was
know.
there at 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
man, getting that shit going.
Yeah.
Man.
So, yeah, you're looking at close to 7 hours of streaming. No problems. Everything's looking good. Everything sounds good. Ding, hey, we need you to do something. I'm like, dude, the fans are here.
Yeah.
You know, we're going live in like 5 to 10 minutes. And I was like, which it worked out. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. It did. But I didn't know how to do it at first. I'm like, oh, God, oh, fuck, oh, shit. you
Right,
know?
right. Yeah.
But it worked out,
That's
man.
the order it goes
Yeah.
into. Oh God, oh fuck, oh shit.
And that was it. That was it, man.
Yeah.
Like, say people coming up, hey, what's up, Jason? I'm like, shut up, man. I can't, I can't talk right now. And,
Shut up. I'm trying to get on TV.
yeah, seriously, man. And but it did. And I tell you, man, one of the coolest aspects is once everything was said and done, Fight TV sent us messages, guys, it was great. Everything looked and sounded great.
Yeah.
And that was cool, man. And,
No. Moment.
That's
Boy.
just great. I'm like I say, I'm happy for you guys because I knew, like I say, I could tell you were a little nervous, but you were way excited.
Yeah.
I think way more excited than nervous.
I don't know. I was pretty damn nervous,
and
brother.
the admiration I have for you for not peeing yourself. That just,
Oh, man. That was tough.
I like I say, it's just as an old man who pees like 12
yeah.
times a day. That's impressive.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, brother, I think I'd have just had to excuse myself, man. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have to figure something
No,
out.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I have.
Yeah, sun drop bottle
Yeah,
under the desk.
it might get a little awkward. I
Yeah,
didn't know it was that
yeah.
kind of wrestling show.
I always heard about,
Why is Mike leaning like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. You can hear it coming over the feed. Hey, what is that? They got a leak or something?
Yeah.
Well, Mike is taking a leak.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
everybody
was-
just kind of did that collective. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt. I know you got a plan set up here, kind of.
No,
but
we're
like
not.
I say, I know the wrestling, with you guys being wrestlers and the wrestling announcers and everything, that you probably know all the wrestling jokes. But I was just
Oh,
wondering
okay.
if you'd heard this one. It's about the Tokyo Twister.
No.
Okay, back in the 70s when wrestling was really going international, there was a famous wrestler from Tokyo called the Kamikaze, and he had a submission hold called the Tokyo Twister.
Okay.
And he was coming to America, but nobody wanted to fight him because the Twister was a hold that nobody could break, and he had actually crippled some wrestlers with it.
Okay.
So the promoter found this one young up-and-comer who thought, I'd like to take him on. So he gets him in there in the ring, and he's going pretty good for a few minutes. And then you see the crowd go, oh, my gosh, he got him in the Twister. Well, the referee's moving in and getting ready to take the submission when all of a sudden the Kamikaze gets shot 20 feet into the air, comes down and crashes into the mat, and the guy rolls over on top of him and gets the 3-count pin. The promoter runs up to him and says, what the heck happened? He said, well, that Tokyo Twister was the most painful thing I've ever had. And he said, and I just was ready to black out when all of a sudden a pair of balls just went in my mouth, so I bit down as hard as I could. And the announcer said, the promoter said, "You bit his balls?" He says, "No."
Oh, you bit his. Oh shit, man. Nice.
Oh,
Damn it, man. This is not Wayne. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. This is why I love for you to be on this show, brother.
Wow.
And you know, I don't even know. Well, y'all have a good one.
Yeah.
That's it, brother. Where do we go from there?
Good night, Gracie.
Yeah, done and done. You know, Wayne, we were talking about the pay-per-view.
Sorry.
Done, man, done. We got to leave those for the end of the show.
Sorry.
No. Well, you know, man, we were talking about the pay-per-view, and usually after our after a USA Main Event monthly show, the Saturday monthly shows,
Yes.
we usually review the show more in depth because we
Right.
can't really go into it on our weekly wrestling wrap-up because there's just so much wrestling
Yes.
to cover on there. I mean, we still don't cover TNA or
Yeah.
Ring of Honor. Or,
I didn't even get to talk about there at the end. Thunders was actually a tournament for the TV title, and I kind of missed that one out. And I know that's another contention for you, as far as TV titles goes. But I missed that spot on there because there's so much. We talked about Wrestle Kingdom,
man.
we talked about the Raws, everything else that's going on in the week, plus the pay-per-views, plus the shows, indie shows. All right, so much.
and dude, it was right at 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the original show was an hour.
All right,
There's
right.
no way.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
absolutely no way.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why we don't play music on the podcast anymore. And man, I kind of hate that.
Yeah, right.
I really hate
Yeah.
not because man, there's some really great independent stuff. I still try to share it on my personal page and even the podcast Facebook page. I
Yeah.
always try to at least put some stuff up that I'm hearing on WTAU. But it also gives us a good opportunity to plug WTAU, P Ridge Nation, and Papa Jack.
Yeah.
Because, man, I listen to it every week. I mean, religiously. It's great music. It's independent acts. You've heard a lot of the bands on here that I've heard from there.
Yeah.
So definitely give him a listen and give that show a listen. And Mike, speaking of music, speaking of the pay-per-view, it all does wrap up here because, like I was saying, we usually will do a review of the show. And we were going to. That was our plan. We were going to review January Joyride
Yes.
in depth and go into a lot of detail. But we decided to push that back for a week, and we're going to do that next week because this week, circling back to music, you guys obviously know, and everybody out there should probably know by now, that the world of music lost, an absolute great. There's very few greats out there. Like I'm talking iconically great musicians. I'm talking people that are exalted above everybody else. There's very few, man. It's a very exclusive club. And unfortunately, the world lost one on Tuesday, and that's Neil Peart from Rush, the drummer.
Yeah. And we all didn't find out until actually yesterday,
Right.
Friday,
Right.
about that.
I tell you, man. So I hit you up. Me and Wayne, we were actually texting a little earlier that day about Warren Zevon.
Yeah, right.
This is actually the first show that Wayne will be on that is not a Warren Zevon show. We decided not to do the Warren Zevon. This is a tribute to Neil Peart. This
Yes.
is
Right.
remembering Neil Peart and what he's done for the world of music and just us personally. And so I thought it was kind of strange that we were just texting and talking, and then this happened. So I hit up Mike. I was like, dude, we need to do something for this because this one kind of hit me, brother. I
Yeah.
mean, I love
Yeah.
Rush.
Yeah.
I have my Rush shirt on today in tribute,
Right.
and Mike's like, yeah, let's do it. I said, well, if we're going to do anything about music, then we got to bring Wayne on.
Yeah.
And you were available, thankfully, and the stars did align.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate it, guys.
hey, man, we appreciate you being here once again. I know it's short notice. And,
Well, like I say, I appreciate it. It's a good tribute because this like you said, he was just one of those type of people that you use the word superstar way over much, but it's just with him it was suitable and just talented beyond all belief.
Yes.
Just unreal.
when you have the vast majority of the population, both just regular people like us as well as other musicians who pretty uniformly would tell you that he was the greatest drummer ever. I'm talking I've always said rock and roll drummer, but Mike, you would correct me in the weekly wrestling wrap up. You're like, no, man, not rock and roll. Of all.
Yeah.
Of all. I mean, I'm talking Buddy Rich. I'm talking, these other that Neil Peart looked up to and idolized.
Right.
Surpassed
even. Now he may have argued that if he was still alive,
sure.
because, man, I'm a nerd about Rush. I think about Rush.
Right.
Like literally, I was thinking about Rush yesterday morning. I hand to God, guys, before I heard the news. Rush crossed my mind, as they tend to do a lot. And I got to thinking about how everybody, especially musicians, I'm a bass player. Geddy Lee is my hero.
Right.
When they write the book on my life, they will say Geddy Lee was the most influential hero, musically speaking, of Jason Finger, because he is, and that was obviously Rush's bass player, forming the rhythm section with Neil Peart. And I was thinking about it yesterday morning. I'm like, everybody, especially musicians, takes Rush so seriously, but the people who didn't take Rush seriously was Rush.
Right.
That's what I love. They had a sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
About their standing in the community of rock and roll, and how people took them seriously. In fact, and the reason I was thinking that, I remember this skit, and I can't remember who did the skit. It was a couple comedians, but Rush was in the skit, and they were backstage to meet Rush, and that was the big thing for these guys. I wish I could remember who it was, but it shows the three of them, Alex, Geddy, and Neil, walking in the back, and especially Alex Lifeson. Dude, he is probably one of the funniest, most, just humorous guys in rock and roll, maybe the world even. But Alex was like, hey, did you guys see that there was a girl in the audience? And Geddy's like, yeah, I saw that. And Neil's like, I think that's a record. But they're literally, and the whole premise of the skit, there's this beautiful looking sandwich in the backstage of like Neil Peart's Do Not Touch. And one of the comedians takes a bite out of it. It's funny stuff, man.
Was that the Jason Segel and Paul Rudd?
I think it was, Mike.
Okay.
I think it was. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, you have these technically sound musicians. I mean, I'm talking like, dude, there's progressive rock, and then there's Rush. I mean, these guys,
right.
I mean, dude, the bass solo of Tom Sawyer has 2 or 3 different time signatures just within that. Do you know how fucking hard that is to learn to play, guys? I'm a bass player.
I have no idea.
It's fucking hard, man.
Hey, let me tell you how hard it is to play a bass.
Thank you. Yeah.
Give it to me. I'll sit here and look at it for an hour.
Right.
I mean, I can make some noise, but when I first started playing bass, disciplined playing, when I started taking lessons and really trying to learn this thing, I tried to learn Geddy Lee. And, dude, I'm telling you, even, especially back in that day when I was learning off a cassette deck, it was kind of hard to pick up.
I was getting ready to say, you picked probably the highest level to start at.
Yeah.
There was no, I didn't start with any, I'm trying to think of a
minor league bass player.
No,
I can't think of one right now either, but I mean, you should have started like maybe on a Guitar Hero or something.
Yeah.
But like I say, you really did set yourself, I mean, I guess that's good to set a high goal, but I mean, it's also easy to get frustrated on that.
Yes, which I did.
Yeah.
Which I did.
I mean, I've seen some of their live performances, and just to see the kit that Neil had, that was a mountain of percussion, man.
Yes. Yeah. And he played it all.
And nobody could have played that.
No
any better
wasted
than him.
space.
None.
No
Mike.
wasted space.
We saw a lot of drummers, especially coming up during like the hair metal era, when it was really
Arena.
cool to, the arena rock excessiveness. Everything was in excess. Girls, drugs, everything was in excess, including a lot of drum kits that maybe the guys would use in one song one time.
Maybe. Yeah.
With Neil Peart, on the other hand,
Right.
everything that you saw, and dude, I mean, he literally was surrounded.
Yeah. With the exception of, say, like Alex Van Halen.
True, Alex
Right.
used his. That's another one of those great drummers.
Right.
I'll definitely put Alex in a higher echelon, but he was still not.
No.
Would do nobody.
No.
And another thing too is that when he would play, I mean, and you talked about who he admired, like Buddy Rich, but he started off, and he would have told you, he had that transition. He played in Britain for a while,
right?
And he was modeling himself more after like a Keith Moon.
Yes, yes.
But when he came back, that's when he started studying. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy. He's one of the greats, Gene Krupa. who was
not familiar.
Oh, he was one of the early drummers from back in. It started in the 30s and the 40s. There's a movie he was in. Gene Krupa was in, where it was just a scene in a nightclub where he takes out a box of matches and 2 stick matches and starts playing the box. It's incredible.
And jamming it.
Yeah. And then at the end he just lights both matches to end the song. And it's like I say, that's who he started to emulate, was him and Buddy Rich and the other jazz players like that. Not, like I say, not getting away from rock and roll, but getting into a more disciplined, I say, way of playing the drums. And that was just incredible to me.
And I tell you, man, one thing, and Mike, I want to get your perspective, because you were a drummer at one time. In fact, when we became friends, that was how it wasn't. Contrary to popular belief, it wasn't through wrestling; it was through the music scene. I think I was actually still playing guitar at that time when we first met. Then I switched to bass shortly thereafter because we couldn't find a bass player, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, dude. I mean, I really took to that instrument. But Mikey, as a drummer, man, won't you give some of your perspective of this man?
I know with him, I always had my heroes. Randy Castillo, from Ozzy, Ozzy, obviously. Tommy Aldridge was another. As I said, Alex Van Halen. A lot of those guys, but Neil was kind of it.
Yeah.
That was the high tier.
Right.
That was, I know with Alex and say Randy and a lot of those guys, there was a lot of flash.
Sure.
But Neil was, you could see it. There was just so much going on up here. You could see it in his head that he was like, 10 moves ahead.
Yeah.
So technical.
Yes.
It was amazing.
I've always said Rush was a thinking man's band.
Yes.
I've always said that. And I think that what you just said really encapsulates that, dude. And I remember you, from back in the day, I remember Tommy Lee was also pretty big. Once again, man, these guys were great. Every single one of those drummers were great. But it's like you said, man, there was something about Neil. There's a real fine line.
Gar Samuelson, from Megadeth was another.
Oh,
and, Gar Samuelson was a huge, very accomplished jazz drummer.
Exactly.
And you're playing in Megadeth. It's, wow.
You've got to be great. Yeah. And, jazz drumming, I think, sometimes gets overlooked, especially in the rock and roll community, of how intricate and how difficult. Jazz in general, man, it's just so free form and improvised. You got to be, whatever instrument you're playing in jazz, you got to be on top of your game.
Yes.
To be able to do that.
A lot of jazz has to do with, like you say, the free form and the jamming of it, as far as, being able to pick up where somebody else leaves off. And that's what a good drummer can do.
Right.
Or even, like you say, Mike would say, he's the one that can sort of set things up, not just sort of set the beat or the pace, but sort of set the way the music is going and the style.
Yeah. Right,
and you talk about some of those jazz drummers that could do it, and not saying that the rock drummers couldn't do it either. There were some really, and somebody else like Bonham, could.
Bonham was another one.
Yeah,
so who could just play like that.
Hold on one second. Did you just put over a Led Zeppelin member?
I did.
Well,
because John Bonham was absolutely amazing.
I know he's not a fan of Zeppelin, but seriously, he's not.
I'm not a fan of Robert Plant and Jimmy Page.
John Paul Jones and Gonzo, dude, was one of the best. I don't think they're the best rhythm section, but I think they're in the top 3. Definitely.
Right, and like I say, but you, even if you don't like the band, you can appreciate the musicianship of somebody like Bonham.
Right.
But it with somebody like Neil, his like I say, technical skill, but like I say, it wasn't like he was rigid either. He could flow
like water.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful to listen to. Some people say, you can't have a good, drum solo that lasts too long, but he could make it sound great.
Yeah.
He could make it sound awesome.
Speaking of drum solos, something that I want to bring up, and I'm glad you brought that, because I did definitely want to talk about this. I had the absolute pleasure of seeing Rush twice. And I've been to some other concerts, obviously.
Right.
Now, Mike, I know you. You never got to see Rush, did you?
No.
But I know you've been to other concerts where they have drum solos.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, and Wayne, I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
Now, is it not the usual norm that when a drum solo happens is when everybody gets up to pee, they go get a hot dog, they go get a beer?
Usually.
That's usually with any solo.
Any solo, whether it's guitar,
Any solo. That's kind of
the cue,
break.
the cue to get up.
The only time I didn't leave during a solo was when they would do the cowbell, but that's a whole.
Well, that's a whole that's a whole other.
Yeah.
That's the next level, brother.
Yeah.
Dude, when Neil Peart solo began, everybody was at their seats.
Yeah.
That was when you did not see. And I remember, Wayne, you didn't get to go to this concert. But back at the Country Corner era, that was the first time I got to see Rush. It was myself,
Right.
and guys we all worked with. It was
Right.
John Harkey, Donnie Grooms, may he rest in peace as well. God bless Donnie, and also my brother Brian.
Right.
Brian Turner. We all went to see Rush that night. And I think it was John Harkey that made that comment and made me see that. He was like, hey, you notice how nobody's leaving for this solo.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, because I'd already been to some concerts before that. And I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
and dude, it was, I dare say the highlight of
Yeah.
the show was to see Neil Peart perform live, his drum solo. It was, dude, it was magical, Wayne.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, it was absolutely magic to see this man work. You're seeing an absolute master of their craft at work.
Yeah.
And it was,
Well, there, and we talked about this earlier with Tommy Lee. There was definitely a big difference to where you wanted to see Neil play
right.
because of how he played, and say like Tommy Lee, you wanted to see his drum solo because of all the theatrics he
Yes.
put into it. He always
Yeah.
went the extra mile for the flashy theatrics and
yeah.
stunts.
Stunts. It was stunts.
For what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely entertaining and it's
Showmanship.
showbiz.
Right.
Showmanship is never a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you are out there giving it your all to entertain, I got no problem
Yeah.
with you. If you're
Exactly.
halving it, shit, sit down, shut
Right.
up.
Stop.
But
Stop.
for a Tommy Lee drum solo by itself,
No, man.
not so much.
But now with
You're probably not going to sit down for it.
you're going to go get a beer.
Right.
I mean, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to go to the bathroom.
Two different levels.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
And and I know this isn't about Van Halen, but I know you brought up Alex.
Yes.
I'll say the same thing about Eddie's guitar solo. I got to see Eddie one time. Once again, nobody left their seats
Right.
during this thing.
Yeah.
I was seeing a virtuoso, a master
Yeah.
at work.
Eddie got a lot of flack at one time because people were saying that he was just trying to be not be proficient, but be too flashy, like you say.
Right.
He was trying to do the entertainment with the facial expressions and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think he went overboard with that, but I mean, I think that he was just trying. I'm not going to give him grief about that because his playing was proficient.
Yes,
it
sir.
was good.
And I also think, man, that he was drunk as hell at the time,
Mostly.
too.
Mostly.
He looked like a Joe Satriani,
Now, there you
a
go.
virtuoso that
Yes.
maybe not so much entertaining and flashy,
Right.
but like I said, proficient.
Proficiency.
Yeah.
Yngwie. I'll put Yngwie in that
Yeah.
category.
Yeah.
A little pretentious. If you
Very,
ever, you ever heard any
Yeah.
of his promos? But speaking of pretentiousness,
I
that
think
was,
the way you say his name is pretentious.
is it not Yngwie?
Huh?
Is it not Yngwie?
I thought you said Yngwie.
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 I call him
Yngwie.
Yngwie.
For a second, I
May
thought we were
Pop
talking
May.
Japanese, but that's okay.
Well, let's say like a Ace Frehley solo.
Yeah, theatrical.
Yeah. Gene
Theatrical.
Simmons bass solo.
Very theatrical.
All right, let's talk about Let's talk about the Gene Simmons bass solo for just a second.
Can we not? Open E.
Open E.
A lot of fire, a lot of blood. I mean, it's
That was it.
That was it.
yeah, that was all.
it.
Well, I got to see Ace Frehley one time, the loudest show I've ever been to. It was
Uh-huh.
in a club, and we were right up front, man. My ears rang for 2 days. It was awesome. Same thing, man. The guitar solo, and I love Ace
Oh,
Frehley.
yeah.
Yeah, I love Ace. Now, is that his guitar solo or him speaking?
Oh, you're right. Fair enough.
Couldn't tell if that was a solo or an introduction to the song.
Shocked me.
I mean, it's a good song, man. I'll jam that right
Yeah,
now.
I will too.
Oh, I love
Oh, I
it,
do.
dude. Ace was always my favorite Kiss
Yeah.
member.
It's good music, but like you say, the proficiency.
It's
Right.
questionable.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, man. I can put on some Kiss, old
Just-
school.
Absolutely.
different levels.
It's
and
different levels,
I'm
man.
not putting it down. It's like you can listen to somebody play an acoustic guitar that's halfway decent. And it sounds good.
It sounds fun.
But he's not going to sit over there and start Roy Clarking it up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Whole
mean,
different level.
whole
man.
different level. And You know, what was that joke somebody said about Kiss one time? The producer was going into the studio and heard something really good. And he said, "Wow, that was great. What happened?" He said, "Gene dropped his bass."
Nice.
Well, I'd actually heard rumors that they would bring bass players in.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
Gene
yeah.
would say that he did it. You
Yeah.
know, that was a rumor going around. But, you know, guys, we were just talking about Yngwie and being pretentious. I think a lot of progressive rock bands, going back to Rush here, could get pretentious.
Okay.
You know, like I'm trying to think something like, well, you know, and I love this band, but, you know, I'm going to put them a little on blast with somebody like a Dream Theater.
Mhm.
You know, maybe even Yes to a certain degree.
All right.
Could
Tool.
get a Tool, because they're considered progressive, you know, a little bit on the heavier, darker side of progressive.
If you want to go back a little bit, you too could get pretentious as hell.
And very,
Absolutely.
very pretentious,
Yeah.
man. King Crimson,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they had their moments. They really did, and you could tell in interviews with some of those guys where they were, you know, when somebody would spout like a certain line of literature, you go, "Oh, come on,
Come on, man. Yeah. Exactly. You got a little pretentious. I always thought Rush walked that line beautifully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, because they were very technical. They were
But they were self-aware.
very self-aware.
Yeah.
of
that's
it.
good. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it. Exactly.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
You're dead on.
Yeah, they knew it and they worked it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Bytor and Snow Dog, you know, for instance, or the Necromancer. The Necromancer is probably my favorite Rush song
Yeah.
of all time.
Yeah.
I love that song. It's a little pretentious, it is, but you know, man, I'm glad I brought that up because we're talking about how proficient of a drummer and percussionist, a master of drums that Neil Peart was. But one thing that we got to remember too is he was the lyrics guy.
Right. Oh yeah.
He wrote this stuff. He wrote novels, man. He wrote science fiction novels.
And a genius at it.
Yes.
Too. And not
Yes.
not this wasn't just some sideline thing. He did this seriously.
Seriously, dude.
If you read his books, he's got a great.
Yes.
Pardon me. He had a great mind.
Yes, and very, like I say, science fiction based. And a lot of these Rush albums, like, man, what was it? Okay, Hemispheres, 2112, Farewell to Kings.
Right.
That was a trilogy.
Right.
You know, I mean, and he basically wrote this story. 2112 is basically a rock opera. And this all came from Neil. Dude, this guy was multifaceted. I mean, to say he was a genius, I'm thinking is actually not giving the word genius enough props because he was next level. He was a beyond a genius in my
Right.
opinion. Because, I mean, he wrote the lyrics. Because Geddy and Alex will tell you, they weren't the best lyric writers.
But the thing of it also was, like you say, the musicianship, the imagination to write the lyrics,
Yes.
and like you say, being self-aware.
Yeah.
They didn't take themselves too seriously.
No,
They-
everybody
they-
else did.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've gotten more respect for them for the fact that they could joke about themselves or
Yes.
just have a good time.
Yes.
If you've ever watched any of, you've seen them in concert,
Oh,
but
yeah.
if you've ever watched any of the YouTube live videos of them playing, they played an outdoor show somewhere one time that I cannot remember where it was, but it was just, they were up there laughing and having
Yeah.
fun and playing like mad.
Man, the last time I got to see them on the 30th anniversary show, and I didn't make it to the 40th.
Right.
I wanted to go to that one. I didn't make it. But, dude, they started out with the Three Stooges theme song.
Right.
Now, man, I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody else went into a Rush fan and said, oh, man, those guys are the Three Stooges, it's going to get hostile.
Yeah.
But Rush will get up there, and then it showed Three Monkeys.
Yeah.
Dude, they did the beginning of the Time Machine DVD. It shows them going through. It's a comedy skit.
It's great.
It's like Mike, you just said, they were self-aware of how technical and I guess borderline pretentious their music could get.
Right.
They ran with it
Right.
and flipped the script. Dude, Alex Lifeson's Hall of Fame speech will forever go down in history.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you thought of it, it will be the most memorable speech in Hall of Fame history.
Absolutely.
And just to kind of quote him, blah, 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 blah. I mean, dude, that's all he did.
Those exact quotes.
That was it. That was exactly what Alex Lifeson did.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
For 100%. And if you see Geddy's expression, he's like, what in the fuck is he doing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And when he first done it all, dude, I was one of the first.
Because there you go. That's another pretentious
Thank you.
event, the setup.
Thank
for,
you.
For the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Now, Mike, I'm glad you brought up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I know that this is not a Warren Zevon show, which is kind of weird since we usually don't talk about Warren Zevon on
Right,
those shows.
exactly. Yeah, there you
So
go.
it would be perfectly fine at this point, because Wayne, you were telling me a Zevon story before we
Right.
hit record about the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I know this is a remembering Neil Peart, but let's talk. I want you to tell the Puds out there what you were telling me about why Zevon is not in the Hall of Fame and why he might never be in the Hall of Fame.
Back in 1978, right after Excitable Boy took off, I mean, he was a darling at the record labels, but he also was a horrendous alcoholic. I mean, I knew he had alcoholic and drug problems for forever, but I just finished the biography called Nothing's Bad Luck, and it's one of those great books. And if you get a chance to, I reckon if you like stories about people who are talented but troubled, this is an awesome story. But he went in 1978, back when Springsteen was also way on his rise up. I mean, this Springsteen had been touted as the future of rock and roll by Time magazine, for goodness sake. And for those of you young people out there, a magazine was something you would get, and you would flip pages. It had pictures and ads for cigarettes.
And Bruce Springsteen was a singer.
And Bruce Springsteen
Not
was
a rapper.
singer. No,
Not a rapper.
It's like a TV in book form.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Dude, Mike.
But
Bring up TV again.
Zevon and Springsteen, of course, were buddies, and he wanted to go see Springsteen at one of his concerts, and of course, get him backstage, everything. Blackout drunk, just totally blacked out drunk, and also there were all the music executives, including the guy who founded and owned Rolling Stone magazine, Jan Winter. Well, Warren got so messed up and yelling at everybody, he fell and destroyed some instruments for Springsteen. Now, Springsteen himself picked Warren up, walked him outside because he was being nice to him.
Yeah, sure, right.
And got him a cab because he was too drunk to be anywhere. Jan Winter said that night, he will never be in my magazine ever again. And the guy who was with him was I cannot remember his name, but he was another music industry executive. Later on, he and Jan founded and built the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and both of them had said repeatedly, Warren Zevon will never, ever be inducted into this institution.
Which I think is awesome. Awesome. I mean, I think that's a perfect legacy, because I know me and you, Wayne, both are on that Facebook page, Warren Zevon, induct Warren Zevon to the Hall of Fame. Now I'm like, if they ever do, I may riot. I don't want them in now.
Yeah.
I've quit voting. I don't go on there anymore to do the fan votes and stuff.
No,
I don't care about it.
No, I don't either, man.
Yeah.
But I will say, it's one of the Hall of Fame is just one of those weird conundrums for me, because just like the WWE Hall of Fame, which is the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, it's the recognized one, and just like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm like, I don't care who's in there, I don't care who goes in, but then when somebody goes in, I'm like, hey, good, they finally,
they got recognized.
Yeah,
and I don't have no problems with that, and like you say, any kind of event like that where it's the industry patting itself on the back, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt, because they're the ones that are saying, look at us, look at how good we did, look at us.
Yeah, let's put ourselves over.
Yeah.
I think what I do like about both the Rock and Roll and the WWE Hall of Fame is it's one of the few times you maybe get to see one of those old school bands or wrestlers, that you haven't seen in years.
Right.
Sure.
It's like, well, hey, at least we get to see them on TV again. I mean, when was the last time Rush was on TV?
Yeah. And that's one of those things where, and we're going to go, I'll sort of walk a line here, is where it's good to have the internet now, because you can go see your favorite bands and you can see live performances.
Yep. That's true.
I know that a lot of people, consider this television, but it's not. But
Mikey, no.
I like to see. And there are some live performances that are not good. And there's some, like with the Rush, that are just amazing. Well,
we were talking about how they just never took themselves seriously. I think for the last 10 years, they actually toured with washing machines and dryers. To this day, I don't really know.
I never did understand that, but it was funny.
But it was Rush.
Yeah.
Who cares? I mean, it was Rush.
Funny as heck.
And Geddy Lee would wear on the DVD. I can't remember. I think it was the 30th anniversary DVD, or maybe it was Rush and Rio. That's one thing I'll say about Rush, man. They continuously released DVDs and albums. They stayed on top of that marketing aspect as well, and people bought them up. I bought them up.
Yeah.
You have to keep making new music. There's so many artists that just and I understand that the nostalgia factor, but there's so many artists that just really once you get stuck in that rut, you sort of lose like your spontaneity and your love of the traveling.
Yes. But going back to the sense of humor, Geddy Lee wore a shirt that said "Rash," that was spelled like. I mean, come on, man, who does that? There are so many, dude. Mike, I know you can attest to this, Wayne. I don't know if you can or not, but we know band members just around the area,
right,
that take themselves too seriously.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
people,
but now you have the truly one of the greatest rock and roll bands with the greatest musicians. I've always said when you're in a band where Alex Lifeson's kind of considered the low end musician.
I know, right?
Dude, this guy is a virtuoso.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I in fact, sometimes I hate the fact that Alex doesn't get the recognition he deserves because once again, man, he is next level.
Yeah.
He is up there, but he's overshadowed by Neil and Geddy. Because there's not a lot of drummers and bass players that get in that category, whereas every guitarist, tends to be compared to these people.
But you think about when the first time you heard Rush, how many guys did you think was in that band?
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not a three-piece.
No.
For sure.
No, man.
No. I would never thought that.
The voice of Geddy Lee, come on now, that's astounding.
Now, here's my thing about Rush and Geddy Lee's voice. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his bass playing, obviously.
Right.
When I first started listening to Rush, it is an acquired taste for his vocals. Here's what I'll say about that, because when I first started listening to Rush, I was like, I don't know. I didn't like it at first. I didn't like the vocals at first. I'll admit that. But after you hear it more and more, you realize a couple things about Geddy Lee's vocals. One, no one else could sing those songs.
Right.
No one else could sing Red Barchetta, Tom Sawyer, I mean, Beethoven and the Snow Dog. No one else could sing those songs. And something else, Geddy Lee is one of those few vocalists in rock and roll that got better technically as a vocalist the longer he went on, because he went from that kind of screaming sort of, which I love that early 70s Rush, man. I love that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what I call it. But man, on Clockwork Angels, the last album they released in 2012, and I want to talk a little bit about the stages of Rush at some point as well. His vocals are I mean, dude, they're probably the best they've ever been on a technical. Like I say, he doesn't do the type stuff anymore.
And you can understand that because
sure, he got older,
got wiser. You have to be able to adjust yourself.
Yes, and become a musician with it. I mean, look at Vince Neil.
Well, I was actually going to circle around to Metallica, where I thought Hetfield. To me, I liked older Hetfield, and Hetfield kind of went to the later on.
Yeah, later on. Yeah. But Geddy would sing kind of in that high pitched, almost screaming like, in the beginning.
And like
the first
you say,
few albums.
Nobody could imitate that.
No,
I mean you could imitate it, but it wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good.
No.
And like I said, it was an acquired taste for me. But I want to talk a little bit about my first introduction to Rush was my brother Brian, and it was once again the Country Corner Crew, all you guys. And I remember Brian was like, and going back to Neil Peart, dude, you got to hear this drum solo on YYZ. On Exit Stage Left. It was that album, it was that drum solo. That was my first album I bought on cassette, and I was like, oh my God, man, what is this? And now and then those guys really pushed it. John was our friend John Harkey was like, oh yeah, man, it's the greatest drum solo of all time. And my God, he was right. Brian was right. He's like, Exit Stage Left, to this day it remains one of my, because we talk live albums. Last time you hear that one is in my top 3, man, because of not only how great it is, but because of that drum solo in that song and that what's the word I'm looking for, man? Just sort of that nostalgic type. It's what I got turned on to. What about you guys? What was some of the first Rush songs that really? I know you, Mike, was Tom Sawyer, obviously.
Tom Sawyer, like I said on the weekly wrestling wrap up. That was it. That was my introduction to Rush, was hearing Kerry Von Erich come out using that theme song in World Class Championship Wrestling, and I heard it and I was like, boom, it's like
that first
whoa.
open, man,
whoa.
yeah.
And that's probably one of the first times that I remember, like rock and wrestling, being intertwined, and it just made sense.
Yes,
and it was just like, well, okay, this just made Kerry Von Erich larger than life.
Right.
What is this music?
Yeah, and it's like
The
it wouldn't
same
have
way
been
with the Road Warriors, with Iron Man, Black Sabbath. Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, dude, it scared me.
I need to have this music.
Yes.
Where is this music? Who is this?
This music scares and confuses me. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
What about you, Wayne? What was some of your first memories of Rush?
Way back when radio was still the thing that you first got introduced to music on.
You mean the thing you can listen to on YouTube?
Yeah. the thing that you listen to on YouTube now. But there was a great station out of Hickory that used to play, and they would play the whole freaking albums.
Yeah, man.
And
What was that?
that was
95.7, wasn't it?
it was-
no 95.1.
95.1 and
Q. No, was it?
95.1 the Q.
No, it was 95.7 was the Q, I
95.7.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Q. Yeah.
And the thing of it was they were,
Hickory.
Yeah, it was out of Hickory 95.
had-
Yeah.
No idea about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
one.
man.
oh, it was
Yeah.
awesome. They
Not
would
that I
play.
remember.
They would have
Yeah.
Saturdays where they would play the whole albums.
Well, now 95.1. Okay, now what did they become? The Ride.
Right.
No, that was
95.7 is the ride.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're still pretty good as far as
They're the assholes that played the Led Zeppelin.
Yes, man. Yeah, Stairway to Heaven for
Not the ride, but one the station itself. Whenever they
Yeah.
changed over in the '90s.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man, that and then that was kind of
Yeah, it was. But that's where I started
I got a
hearing
story
it
about that one,
because
yeah.
on Saturdays, they would play the albums, and that's how I would find out about music. That and my buddies, I learned about Warren Zevon from my buddy Scott, who we all know was probably one of the most music icons in this town.
Right.
And but Rush, I heard that on the station, and I'm sitting there going, whoa. And they just played the whole thing all the way through.
Do you remember
And,
which album it was, Wayne?
I cannot remember which one it was, but it was so good to me because, like I say, it would go into one song to the other, and yet I could hear the music, the lyrics, and like I say, the singer to me when it first started off, I think I had a little bit more of a reaction to it oh God, this is great.
Yeah,
Because-
right.
Because I like the fact that he would get out there and just shout it out. Back then, this was in the '70s, shout it out. But like I say, as I got up to the music stores and got to listen to them and things like that, and I found out about who they were and what they were, that's when I really became a Rush fan.
We were just talking about when that radio station, I think it was 95.7, when they played Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin for 4 days,
Yeah.
a week. I think it was a solid week.
It was awful.
And that was always kind of going back to where me and Wayne used to work at Country Corner. Shout out to the old school Country Corner crew. Me and my brother Brian were working there. Because that was a fun place and a cool environment to be in.
Right.
Well, I know we always listen to 95.7.
Yeah.
So, we get in there, and one of my first duties when I would clock in would be to go stock the cooler. That was always, I had my little routine, And then we had customers coming in and out, obviously. So, as soon as we got in there, we turned radio on because the lady in the mornings didn't, listen to music. She was...
Soap operas on her little television.
Yep.
I hate the fact that I know a lot about the Young and the Restless.
And I don't want to speak ill of that woman either, but I don't know if she's still living or not,
I do
Wayne.
not know,
I don't know.
but-
She could be a little mean sometimes.
Little mean.
A little mean. That's what I will say about her.
Okay.
But I don't want to speak ill because I haven't seen her in years. I don't know what her condition is. But needless to say, she didn't listen to rock and roll radio.
not a bit.
No, not at all. So as soon as she would leave and me and Brian were there, we'd turn on 95.7, because we couldn't pick up the Fox too good.
Right.
Plus, back in those days, 95.7 was a better channel. It
Right.
played better music.
The Fox got to where they had that the morning team of
John Boy and Billy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
They sucked
They were great for a long period of time, and then they hit a wall years ago.
and they were on
Yeah.
for so long in the
They're
morning time.
outdated.
It was just
Outdated.
like no music. They would play. They would be on in the morning, play very little music. It was their rip-off skits. They stole stuff from. everybody.
They did.
I mean, they
Borrowed.
They
Like Led Zeppelin borrowed
Oh,
from other bands.
they never had an
Jeez.
original thought in their head.
Now, I love John Boy and Billy back in the day.
I did too. I always thought they were just I don't know. They were silly, entertaining.
I liked
Yeah.
them, but they did hit a wall.
Oh yeah.
I think what John Boy and Billy messed up is when they started bringing so many different people on the show.
Yeah.
And it started being John Boy and Billy and so and so.
Entourage.
They had an entourage.
Yeah.
They
Right.
did.
Yeah.
But when they started doing the 957, I believe it was, when they started doing the Stairway to Heaven, you know, as soon as me and Brian get there, we turn on, well, guess what's playing? Stairway to Heaven. So anyway, a big rush came in. You know, we'd always have a big crowd about 5 o'clock when I'd come in. You know, the people getting off work. So I went back there. I stocked the cooler. I'm back there for a while, you know, because Gene.
They were big coolers.
Yeah. They were, man. And the mean lady wouldn't do it, you know. So we get back there, you know, and I'd be back there stocking them up real good.
That's Guiding Light time, son.
Hey, man, brother. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you fuck your cooler.
Yeah. With Josh and Reba.
It's like, but I need a Pepsi. Fuck your
Yeah.
Pepsi. Guiding Light, bitch. But, so I'd be back there for a while, man. Like you were saying, Wayne, it was a big walk-in cooler, you know. And we also had the big rush coming in. We'd always sell, you know, a lot of drinks, obviously. So, man, I went back there and I come back out. Stairway to Heaven's still playing. And we had this big rush, you know, and me and Brian, and then, you know, it kind of chilled out. Me and Brian start goofing like we always did and always still do to this day. And I remember Brian was like, damn, how long is this song?
Jesus. Is this thing ever going to
Oh,
end?
my God, man. And I'm like,
Which is the way I feel with Led Zeppelin anyway. But let me tell you what.
which is probably what the people were thinking about the
Oh, my
podcast. They're like,
gosh.
God damn, man,
Yeah.
you guys are still talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that was funny. Then they started playing it again. I'm like, wait a minute, dude, they're playing it again?
I'll never forget about that Nightmare Weekend.
Dude.
Because I lived on the radio
Yeah.
as a kid.
Oh, yeah,
You
man,
know?
yeah. Well, now, wasn't it the same station that played Shot the Monkey by Peter Gabriel? No, that was 95.1.
Oh, man.
Oh,
that
that-
was another nightmare.
Yeah,
That was
man,
awful.
Yeah, that was terrible,
Oh.
man. Yeah, because it was shock radio or something like that.
Whoever thought of this stuff was just an ass.
I don't. Yeah, man,
Yeah.
fuck them. Fuck
Just
those
an
people.
utter ass.
I mean, I don't know why you have a transition like that. You know?
Yeah, who's
You
like,
know,
oh, this is a good idea.
Here I am from, you know, like watching WKRP on TV.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
when they made the transition from like the easy listening music to rock and roll, and Johnny Fever just scratches the record. It's like, all right, we're changing format.
Formats, yeah, man,
That's it.
done.
and then goes booger.
Booger. Yeah.
I love that
Why
show.
can't they do that?
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that show.
That was a great one,
Yeah.
man.
You couldn't do that show again today because
No.
nobody knows what radio
Well,
is.
what? Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe you could do a podcast, maybe.
Well,
I don't think it would be as fun.
Nah,
But-
I don't know. Depends on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
well, that's true.
You'd have to erase
Well,
the
see,
MP3
of course-
instead of scratching the record.
Of course, that's that's me watching WKRP and thinking that's how radio works.
Yeah, right. Well,
All right.
boy, howdy, were we wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, Mike, you said something about transitioning from, you know, easy listen to rock and roll, or rock and roll easy listen, should say. Well, you know, Rush had some transitions in their career. They had that early,
Nice transition.
a lot of transitions per song.
I mean,
Right.
no, nice transition from you.
Oh, thank you.
You're
man.
welcome.
You like that, man?
Well done.
And people think we script this shit. No,
Hey,
man, it's on the
no.
fly, brother. This is calling it in the ring, man. This is
Yeah.
Flair and Steamboat, baby.
Sorry, I missed my line.
Come on, Wayne.
That's right, Jason. You did that well.
nice segue.
Hey.
But no, man, they did, you know, and a lot of Rush fans will be the first to tell you that there's really about, in my opinion, about 3 different stages of Rush. You had that early classic era that a lot of people also may not realize did not include Neil Peart. Neil Peart didn't come into the 3rd album.
Right.
They had 2 other albums, which are good. They're good stuff, but man, Neil, that Crest of Steel being Neil Peart's first album,
Right.
just next level, man.
And the fact that he came in at that time, I think, was just perfect for them.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
They were already changing. You could tell.
Yes, and they needed that shot in the arm, and they need those lyrics. I mean, like I said, that was the album that had the Necromancer on it. I mean, that
right.
song tells an entire story in itself, including the transitions, like when the song goes dark, you know, the key changes to a minor key, and then when the heroes win, it goes to a major key. And
Did you hear the audition story when Neil showed up? He had a car full of garbage cans that had his drum kit in it.
no, tell
Yeah.
that story.
Oh no, it was just like that's just it. Like say they were sitting there waiting for this guy to come and audition for him, and they said this beat up old car shows up, and this guy starts taking out these huge trash cans, and he's got his drum kit in the trash cans so they don't get rolled around in the car.
Like
Wow.
cases,
Right.
basically in the
Right.
Really, I've
Yeah.
never heard
Oh,
that.
it was. I can imagine the picture there, and they said that
who's this guy? He's going to play the trash
right,
cans.
and that's what they said. They said, "What the hell?" And then they said that Getty didn't get along with him at first.
Really?
No, they said he just sort of like, what the hell is this guy's problem? But then he started talking to him. He said, oh, and then the play, and he said, well, hell.
Done.
Yeah.
You know. Well, they said Neil was definitely a unique individual. He was not very personable as the other guys. Like, he didn't do the meet and greets as much. He was very more reserved.
That's what they would say. They would make sure, and they even said this in one of their bios one time, that they would make sure that on tours he was not required to be at a promotion.
Yeah, or the meet and greets and the backstage
right,
stuff.
because they said he just it wasn't that he was being an ass, it just wasn't him.
He wasn't a very, and I know a lot of people like this. Like, man, I just, I'm not here for all that. I'm just here to play. And but man, kind of going those transitions from that early guitar driven stuff.
Right.
They went into what could be considered a little bit of a diverse time, or at least among the fans, divisive is what I'm trying to say, a more synth.
Right.
Because they even Alex Lifeson even said, I wasn't really into some of the keyboard stuff. Getty was always on top of that. But even Neil started using more electronic drums, things of this nature. You had like Grace Under Pressure. What was another one? The one with Red Sector A on. It's escaping me, man. But definitely more of an 80s vibe to him. And
so that's
everything.
another thing about Rush. They were not snobbish about going electronic.
No.
I don't have a problem with electronic music when it's well done.
Right.
But don't give me some idiot over here pushing one button all the time
On a laptop.
Yeah, just going.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, if you can't play, don't play.
Don't play. Or like, it trips me out when I see DJs, and I mean nothing against DJs, man. I mean, if you can do it, you can do it. And if there's a market for it, there's a market for it. But I mean, when you got a guy hitting a button on a laptop and then headbanging, come on, man, it's not the same.
First time I ever saw a guy have a scratch pad
Yes.
instead of I'm sitting there going, and he's going wicka wicka wicka. I'm going, okay, we've officially reached a critical mass here, folks.
We've crossed the line.
Yeah.
The line has been crossed.
But I mean, again, like I say, I don't want to disrespect the people who do that. I just think that at some point you have to realize that you're in kind of like not an altered reality, but not a real reality.
You're not a musician.
Exactly.
I've always said it's musical craftsmanship. It is musical craftsmanship,
right? But
it's not musicianship. That's how I look at
and not to get off on a rant, but like I say, I do that.
Well, bro, you're on the right show.
If your main talent is taking a beat from somebody else and putting it up with a beat from somebody else and putting it up with a beat from somebody, you're not a musician or songwriter.
No, but I do consider it craft.
Again, I understand. Yeah. I understand that. That's a whole other thing. But do not call yourself a songwriter.
Right, or a musician.
Finger stills beats all the time.
I do all the time, man. I called it Stairway to Heaven. Man, we're not getting into that right now. We're not getting into that. But and the last transition, going from the early classic rock guitar driven transition into the 80s more pop-ish keyboard driven.
Right.
Then they kind of went full circle and went back to that more guitar driven progressive. And do Clockwork Angels. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to listen to that album. It like I said, it was released in 2012, so it's pushing 10 years old.
Yeah, to me it was a really good album. I liked it a lot.
It was a great album,
and I like not like most people, I went and bought it.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
I feel
bad.
You can acquire it for free online.
I know, but I feel bad.
What, for buying it? Yeah, I feel bad for you, brother. I could have got that for you.
Jason Finger steals beats.
I still hold albums. No, I don't steal. I acquire. I acquire.
It was
them.
shared with you.
Right.
Sharing is caring, man. And I think we should share it with everyone, including strangers off the internet. But I do think that was really cool how they came full circle. And man, they never released a bad album.
No.
And one thing I found very interesting about Rush, it was not that long ago. Since Rush did retire, because Neil was just beat up even before he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He was just, man, look what the man did every night. I mean, man, playing drums. Dude, even if you're a Charlie Watts type drummer, which is that's a good solid drummer, but even a 1 2 1 2 3 drummer you're going to be tired.
Oh yeah.
I go over to my friend Jeremy's house. He's a drummer, and I'll get behind and play his drums. And I'm not a drummer by any means. Dude, I'm talking 20 minutes, and I'm over here like huffing and puffing.
Yeah. Drumming is just one of those. It's a marathon.
It is.
It really is.
It is. And that's when you're a basic drummer. Now, do what Neil Peart does in every song.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, you're going to get beat up. You're going to be tired. So he retired. And so they were talking to Geddy because, Neil kind of shied away from the interviews as well.
You're right.
But they were asking Geddy, he was like, well, is there any unreleased music? Anything in the vaults that we can look forward to? He was like, no, not really. He was like, because every song that we work on, we finished it.
Right.
I was like, dude, that blew me away.
Yeah.
You don't see or hear about that.
No.
I mean, they never had a bad song, guys.
Right.
I mean, every song that they even remotely started working on became a full album release song. Man, that is unheard of, guys.
That is talent and dedication right there.
Yes, man.
It
yes.
really is. To not just take something that you've been struggling with and throw it in the
Right.
I mean, I understand the need to do that on
Sure,
some people,
sure.
but for them to have just put everything out, that's admirable as heck.
Yes, it is, man. And like I say, it's unheard of. And guys, I know we are running a little long. And
I'm sorry.
No, brother, no, man. We appreciate you being here. But one thing that I'd like to try to end the show with is kind of what I saw on one of their documentaries, Beyond the Lighted Stage. Guys, I don't know if you've all had an opportunity to watch that documentary on these guys, because I've got a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the Lighted Stage, I think it's on Netflix if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't seen that one.
It is phenomenal, man. Neil Peart, dude, he had a rough time because he lost his wife as well.
Right.
She had passed away.
Right.
And I forget what year it was, brother. I can't remember.
97, I think it was.
That sounds about right, man. Yes.
But they had lost their daughter before that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So he had a lot
of
of
hit him
loss.
at once. I mean, really.
And they said, man, so they had a hiatus. Rush went on hiatus for a while. And in this documentary, he's talking about it. And he's a motorcycle enthusiast as well.
That's another thing. He traveled the North and South America. On his motorcycle and wrote books about it.
Yes.
That's the kind of guy you want to be friends with.
You're damn right, man. And Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did that after his wife passed, right? Yeah. And he was talking about it. He's like, man, I got on my bike and I just drove, and I drove across 2 continents.
Wow.
So when he came back, and he was like, okay, I'm getting back into music. At this point, man, you're probably thinking around 2000-ish, probably around the time Vapor Trails came out, probably around about that time. This guy has already been considered the greatest drummer of all time. At this point, man, we're talking 19-some years ago, he's already considered the greatest drummer ever. He is widely regarded as the greatest drummer to ever walk the earth at this time. What does the man do, guys? He goes and takes drum lessons.
Yeah.
That's why he was the greatest, guys. Because he understood that, hey, I can learn more.
Yeah.
He changed his style up from the again in the early 2000s.
This was the third change for him.
Yes. And he even said that he went from holding the sticks the regular way to holding them kind of like a pencil, like the jazz drummers.
Right.
Uh-huh.
He switched to that style.
Charlie Watts
style. Yes, man, absolutely. Once again, man, let's say that one more time. Neil Peart, after, I guess at this point, close to 30 years of being in Rush.
Right.
Considered above and beyond the greatest drummer ever.
They were already in the Hall of Fame, weren't they?
Not at this point. Not at this point. They were still a couple years out. But widely regarded as the greatest drummer. What does the man do? He takes lessons, man. And he had his teacher with him on this documentary, and the guy's like, hey, he's the best student I've ever had. I'm like, yeah, no shit. It's Neil Peart. But he said that he had never worked with anybody who was just so eager to learn, because it was a jazz drummer.
Right.
He went more to that jazz big band style. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, dude, I know people who've played guitar, bass. Myself, hey, man, I'm in this category. Oh, man, I don't need lessons. I already know how to play.
Yeah.
If Neil Peart, after 20 to 30 years, can go and take drum lessons, my God, we can all get better at what we do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is why that man, guys, was the greatest. Not just because of what he could do, but because he continued to learn.
Yeah.
He continued to better himself, and it showed, man. And the world lost a great musician, a great guy, just an overall talent, guys. And the world seems a little emptier today.
Yep.
It really does. Well, Mike, brother, we probably ought to hit the stop button. I got to be somewhere in 30 minutes, and it takes about 40 to get there.
All right, man. Wayne, thank you
Hey,
for
guys,
being with us here
I can't
today.
thank you enough. This is always fun for
You
me.
know, anytime you're free, dude. I mean,
Yeah, man.
You know, we always enjoy having you in here.
We always say you raised the rent, brother.
Absolutely.
And it was
It's
definitely one of
always
those impromptu things too. It was like, hey, dude, can you be in the studio tomorrow morning? Yeah, I'll be there. It's like, man, that's.
Which is
We
always
appreciate
with us is impromptu.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, look at last week.
Yeah.
Look at last week. You know, Wayne, I know we were talking about that. It's like, man, I'm glad I wasn't here.
Gosh.
I wish you were. I
I've
mean,
lost you some listeners.
oh, I'm surprised we actually got a couple listeners.
Yeah, I know we picked up some.
Or if we could have brought the Reverend in for that one too, man,
Yeah.
because he gets way
Yeah.
into it, man. I don't know, Wayne. We might have argued, brother. We you know, well, it would have got us listeners.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Honestly. I just don't want it to end in a bloody fist fight.
Yeah. Me either. Me either. I'll be over here like beat up, you know. Coming to you next week from the hospital.
Well, if it does, if it comes to that, we need to put it on TV.
we're going to promote it, Wayne.
We're going to promote it,
and we're going
yeah.
to do commentary. Well,
On
you
TV.
know, on TV.
On TV.
You see what he did? Right
I saw him, and he's genius
he does
at
that.
it.
He does that shit.
So
on
for
purpose.
Jason Finger and Wayne Sisk, wrestling and Rush fans, thank you all for being here and listening, and we'll see you next week.
Next week, Wayne. Anything you want to end us with, bro?
Oh, thank you for having me, guys. It's always fun.
Till next week.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
Oh, that was fun.
That was fun, man.
And not only that, David, I understand we're right at the end of our program.
No, we have got to
This
go.
has been a great event.
There's some people out there that hate us for this.